I get a cut. I think I'm top 5. Top 5.
Top 5 side ones, track ones.
Hello, listener. Welcome back to Top 5. I'm Kenton McDonald.
I'm Ian Howe.
And I'm Matty,
That's Matty Clark, our
The one and
special
only.
guest today.
the living legend.
Thanks for coming, dude.
And I'm always happy to do a favor for a friend. You know? I'm a busy guy, but I could squeeze you in. I made some time.
Appreciate it. What are we talking about today?
Okay, well, my top 5 topic is top 5 punk songs that feature the piano. And I guess I'll talk a little bit of how I came up with that.
Please.
I had some difficulty compiling this list, to be honest. I somewhat regretted choosing this topic when I thought about it. My thinking in choosing it was punk songs that feature less than typical instrumentation, and I didn't want to choose saxophone because I felt like there'd be too many obvious choices, or harmonica because it's exceedingly rare, even though there's some punk songs with harmonica I like. And I didn't want to just choose the broader topic of rock songs with piano because that's like, get it down to your top 50.
Way too many.
Way too many. It'd be like Bo Diddley versus Black Sabbath versus Elton John. I don't even know what. So that was
Changes
too
would have
broad.
been on your list for.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, you see where I'm going with that. So I chose punk songs that feature specifically piano, no synth, nothing, no keyboard, nothing like that. Got to be plain old fashioned piano.
Pure.
Well,
Pure
I got one
piano.
that has both synth and piano. Is that?
That's acceptable
All
as
right,
long as
all right.
piano is in the song.
I have one that I swear to God is a piano, but as far as I could tell, it was only credited as keyboard, but there's just no way.
You
so
son of
we
a
can, We
bitch.
can put this to...
Credits on liner notes are often.
I didn't have the
Not
record to
totally
look at
accurate.
either, so I was going off of Wikipedia, which doesn't always have the best information.
And there's also keyboard and synth sounds that are the piano setting, which for all intents and purposes are piano.
Well,
For our intents and
Sure,
purposes.
and I also there was a couple of songs that feature electric piano, which are a piano, different from a keyboard, but I also didn't go that route.
I think that's fine. When I was making this list, one of the dilemmas I had was, should I pick songs that I think are great where the piano is prominently featured, like it's an integral part of the song and it's something novel, or can I also include songs that I like where the piano is just like tangential in it, like kind of the thing the boys do in every song with just one note, like for like, an effect. And I figured that you could just include, and if it has a piano in it, you can include that song.
Your criteria, your rules.
Exactly, yeah. But I will say that when I began compiling this list, I immediately realized that I had fucked myself pretty badly by not including synthesizer or keyboard or whatever, because it excluded like a ton of songs that I really, really like. Like there was like an Undead song I wanted, and Blitz, that's a great, Battle Fatigue is one of my
Yeah,
favorite. I
but
couldn't put that on there.
That could be its whole own episode.
Yeah,
of
I couldn't
synth.
put The Screamers' 122 Hours of Fear, which is one of my very favorite songs. So I'm mad at myself for picking this topic. So if this episode stinks, you can blame old Matty here.
Well, what I liked about this topic is that it really made me have to rack my brain because there are a lot of things that I thought were piano that weren't. And there's a lot of songs that I thought I had a piano and there's no keyboard, there's no piano. I had no reason to believe that, I guess, in the end. So having to reevaluate and revisit a bunch of stuff in order to come up with this list was kind of fun.
Yeah, I found I remembered harmonica as piano in more than one instance, weirdly enough. So
Harmonica is piano?
I remembered harmonica as
Oh,
piano,
oh,
like a
oh,
song
oh,
that I thought had a
okay.
piano in it. In fact, had a harmonica. Another
see.
atypical
Yeah.
punk instrument.
I liked this one because there was no like list to choose from. Some of the other topics, you search and there's like a list of here's
like
here's all the-
albums that came out that year or
Totally,
something.
yeah. Or the
This,
or
this
Ramon-
required,
yeah.
required a little more homework.
only
And
brain work only.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a toughie. But I mean, there were a couple that jumped out at me right away. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I definitely knew what my number one was. But we're not at number one now, are we? We're at 5. So
We're at
should we
5.
just-
Do you want to get started with it?
Yeah, sure. I'll just jump right in. This one, getting back to what I was talking about, songs that only mildly incorporate the piano as like a backbeat. The Boys jumped into my mind immediately because I love the Boys. They're one of my favorite, 77 punk bands, early British punk bands. And I picked what did I pick? I picked The Boys' Tumble With Me, which is a reworking of a Hollywood Brat song, which also features the piano. And, it's like just a ripping song, and it's got the thing where they do the one-note accent of the piano over and over again the
Huge
entire
Boys
song.
thing.
Yeah, they do it in like every Boys song. But I wanted to include it because it's a perfect example of that type of song, and the Boys are really good at writing that type of song. I also, want to put the Boys on the list because they're just one of my favorite bands, and I've always felt that they got short shift. At least when I was growing up, I always felt like they were maybe the most overlooked band of like that generation of British punk. Like I don't really understand why. I feel as though like they never get mentioned in the same breath of like a Damned or a Clash.
Sure.
And maybe they're not as good as those bands, but like I feel as though they're an accessible band for like someone who's not a big fan of punk but can enjoy like the Damned and the Ramones.
And a lot of material, like three really good records.
Great albums, yeah. And the harmonies, I mean, people called them the Beatles of punk when they came out because they do those like, 2-part and 3-part harmonies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I loved the Boys from an early age, but it was really hard to come across their material. Couldn't get a record.
Yep.
Had a cassette tape copy that I dubbed from a friend's record, and that was my exposure to it. So that I totally with you on that pick. And when Honest John was in town, he played Stacy and Alan's wedding a number of years ago.
Yeah.
And he told me a really funny joke, which I love, which I'm going to go ahead and just put in here because this is the perfect time. So I am shooting the shit with him, and he's been flown out to play a wedding of a bunch of people he doesn't know. And he is an incredibly nice dude. And he's talking about how he'd been playing some shows in Australia and talking about how ridiculous customs is there. And they just grill him. And he was saying that, one of these, TSA people or whatever in Australia were asking him, like, well, do you have a criminal record? And he said, oh, I didn't realize I still needed one. Because Australia is colonized by a bunch of criminals from England.
That's a clever joke. That's a clever joke. Next time I travel to Australia, I'm going to steal that joke if the opportunity presents itself. 100%. I'm going to write that down.
I definitely knew that you were going to bring up the Boys.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like when I think of piano in punk songs, Boys were the first one to come to mind, and I just got a long list here of Boys songs with piano.
Oh, hell yeah.
First record, Sick on You, So Depressing.
Yep.
No Money, Tenement Kids, Living in the City. And then second record, Brickfield Nights, USI, TCP. And then on the third record, too.
You Can't Hurt a Memory. Yeah.
Kamikaze as well. So much piano with that band.
Yeah, a lot piano all day with the Boys. Great band.
Yeah. Another thing I was thinking, listening to them, that just great transition from Cop Cars into Keep Running.
Oh, so good.
With the police siren sound on guitar. It's not piano. It's not related at all. But that would be another list, top 5 list, punk songs with the police siren sound. And
oh my God.
There's so many.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, The Exploited and what's that? Stranglehold. Oh, so many. Yeah, so many. Oh, Riot Squad. That'd be my number one probably. But just one last thing on the Boys. One of the reasons why I've read in a couple of different sources, though I can't remember them right now, that they failed commercially was they were getting a big push from Stiff when they released "Sick on You" as a single, and it was climbing the charts. And supposedly, in August of '77, when Elvis Presley died, their distributor stopped pressing every record that they had, on the books and began pressing like all these cheapo Elvis Remembrance records. So people who wanted to buy the Boys record could not at that time, and it hurt their career perhaps fatally, or at least that's what they say. Now, I tried to verify that a little bit, and on Wikipedia, which, take that for what you want, it said nothing about Elvis dying, but it specifically said that their album was climbing the charts from September of 1977 into August of 1977 when it fell off. So since Elvis died on August 16th of 1977, there's some corroboration there, I think, if you just look at, the sudden and steep decline
this
of
could
their
be a
single
conspiracy,
sales.
But all the facts are lining up.
Shit's checking out.
Exactly. The absence of evidence is not the evidence of absence, as they say, So just take that for what it is, listeners.
Very good.
Yeah. What
Were
do
you
you
gonna
got?
say that?
I did think it was very good. We both said it. I think we're all on board here. But Ian, you want to
Yeah.
give us your number 5?
My number 5 is kind of my wild card. Definitely a standout on my list.
Mhm.
It's Death Side, Fight Your Way,
Mm.
which it's like just raging guitar riff throughout the whole song, and then at the end of the song goes in to a beautiful piano version of the same riff.
Ah.
Sounds very classical. It's probably actually my favorite piano work on my list. But Death Side off the Bet on the Possibility, 1991,
Mm-hmm.
Selfish Records, re-released by Feral Ward in 2015. Love to get Yannick on the show at some time.
Oh, we got it.
Be good to pick his brain.
Yeah. Chelsea, the guitar player of Death Side, fucking mastermind, amazing guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely my favorite Japanese hardcore guitar player.
Mm.
Also love Paintbox. Not everyone does, but
I like Paintbox.
yeah. I really interesting band, especially their third record, Trip, Trance, and Traveling, which they recorded in 2007, which is the same year he died of a heat stroke. Very sad, much too young. Didn't come out for another year, but Chelsea and Death Side.
It's a good choice. I feel like when I get home from this, I'm going to put on like a ton of hardcore records and different punk records and immediately realize there's like 50 fucking songs with piano on them that I hadn't considered.
It pops up. I mean, this is like,
You thought of it
if you listen
immediately.
to this record, you remember that part,
Yeah.
like, and the riff itself is just so catchy, so good. I'm looking at that acoustic guitar and wanting to just play it right now, but we'll move on. What you got for number 5?
Okay. Well, what I noticed when I came up with my final list today, all of my songs come from a short span in the 80s. So I thought that was kind of an interesting fact. But this is my only capital P punk band piano song. And that's the Subhumans. The UK Subhumans.
Yes.
That is. Off of the Time Flies But Airplanes Crash 12-inch EP. The song is called Susan, and it's all mostly piano, and it's one of the most depressing songs to ever listen to, but the Subhumans were the first real punk band I ever got to see when I was 13 years old. And the only album I had was Rats, which isn't an album. It's those 2 EPs compiled together, and that song Susan I thought was so cool and eerie sounding, and it, for me to start this list off, I wanted to go with the most piano focused punk song I could think of. And whether it's a punk song, it's definitely a punk band. So
most certainly.
Piano with a capital P.
Yeah,
Piano
we're
with capital
talking
P
capital P piano on this one.
And capital P punk for certain. When I was growing up in New Jersey in the 90s, most of my friends were into like youth crew hardcore, and when I was getting schooled on punk, I was told that they referred to the Canadian Subhumans as the good Subhumans and the British Subhumans as the shitty Subhumans. And
I grew up hearing the opposite.
And as I got older, I felt the exact opposite of that. Although the Canadian Subhumans do have some good songs, like "Fuck You" is a good song.
I was actually re-listening to Incorrect Thoughts recently. They're pretty prolific, actually, for how early they were in the 70s when they started. Like,
both great bands in their own right. I want to
totally,
make that
but
clear.
I think it's just worth mentioning since we got them on there. It's just like something about Vancouver.
Yeah.
They are basically they're like the Mecca of Canada as far as punk and hardcore is concerned. Like bands like the Pointed Sticks and DOA and all those bands.
For sure.
Starting super early in the 70s scene before shit had really gotten popular.
Definitely. And for as political as the UK Subhumans are, it was the singer or guitar player of the Canadian Subhumans that actually blew up like a computer processing factory because they made like hardware for the military. He did some time in prison for that. Yeah. And you look up, I wish I knew the name, but yeah, he was a member of a group that was for nuclear disarmament, and there was a facility of some kind in HSBC that made the microchips they put on nuclear warheads, and him and some other activists planted a bomb there. I don't think they injured anyone, but he did a few years in prison for that. So
Interesting.
a person living their ideals, and I think we can all respect that.
Totally. I guess that puts him a little ahead of the peace punk sort of UK.
If they didn't hurt
subhumans.
anyone, that's still peaceful, right?
Yeah, why not?
Well, I mean, it's like an act of
Peace.
Yeah,
it's an
of
act of peace mostly.
Fuck the war, man.
Yeah, there's a peace bomb and also a conventional bomb.
Hell yeah! But yeah, the song "Season" it's very good.
Nice.
Matty,
This
what do
is
you got?
fun. I'm enjoying this. Do you need a third host? I'm just kidding. Not really, though. Christ. All right. Okay, the fourth one. This was a controversial pick. I was chosen because my top three, I had very, very solid ideas. Number four, the four spot was tough, and I was in between two songs. I included this one not only because it's a good piano song, but also because I really wanted to include this band on my list. So my fourth song is a song called Gimme Some Sugar Oi by the Swiss band The Vanilla Muffins, who are secretly one of my favorite bands, and just one of
such a secret.
the strangest bands of the past 30 years. For those who are unfamiliar with them.
I am unfamiliar with them.
Oh, well, let me proceed then, my friend.
Please continue.
The Vanilla Muffins are a band from, I believe, Basel, Switzerland, and it formed in 93 or 94, went for about, 12 years, never toured the States, and they're like an Oi band, singing about soccer hooliganism and typical Oi skinheady topics, in part, but it's also like the sugariest, poppiest punk you've ever heard, So it's this weird mix of like Cockney Rejects type material, but just like super blazing clean pop punk, and I love them very much. They're also an exceedingly strange band, as people from Switzerland tend to be. Like the lyric construction is really unique because I believe that English is their second language. When I was younger, there was a rumor that one of the members was developmentally disabled because a lot of the songs are about mommy. Like they have like 5 songs about their mommy. I don't know if it's a Ramones thing, but like they have on just the one record on this one record that Gimme Some Sugar Oi is off of, they have Mommy It's Me, Mommy I'm in Trouble, Mommy's Wonderful, and Mommy How Can We Stay Young, all tracks on that record. So yeah, they're just a strange band.
Yeah.
And
you point that out. It's kind of bizarre.
And they coined the term Sugar Oi, which is like what they play. They are a Sugar Oi band. And the song Gimme Some Sugar Oi features piano extremely prominently. It's sort of a treatise of sorts on what Sugar Oi is. It's kind of an atypical song because the vocalist does not sing on it. They have a guest vocalist in the form of Frankie Flame, who I only knew him from those like weird Strength Through Oi comps from the early 80s, like those big weird Oi comps I used to buy at like record stores and shit. But he was considered the Elton John of Oi. Yeah. He's like a weird Cockney punk Elton John guy who plays the piano.
How did he dress though?
Like in a extravagant way. I believe he wears like a suit with sequins and flames.
Cool.
And he plays piano.
Frankie Flame, yeah, he's got a great song called On Your Bike. Was really also the only Frankie Flame song that I know. But he's like the guest vocalist on the Vanilla Muffins.
He doesn't play piano.
He does play piano.
Oh, okay.
He
And
plays
sings.
piano
Got it.
and sings. And he plays piano and sings on the Vanilla Muffins Gimme Some Sugar Oi. I hope I've explained this.
Yeah,
adequately.
no, that makes sense because there's another guy that I think of who plays piano and sings, and that's Elton John.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, it may well be that Frankie Flame is Elton John's alter ego because, I mean, I've never seen them in the same place at the same time. So you can't discount that,
I like that theory. I think you're onto something.
Yeah, when Elton wants to rock out, more so than he normally does, or maybe play for a smaller audience, a marginal audience, if you will.
Yeah, get back to his roots.
Yeah, he dresses up as Frankie Flame, and, it's kind of like a Chris Gaines situation.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so I put them on there. So if you haven't heard them, I mean, Switzerland is a strange place, but it produces really good pop punk. I mean, I think of them and Chin Chin, another favorite band of mine when I want to listen to kind of more
is that
melodic
where they're
music.
from? I didn't realize that. I have that Mississippi reissue of the 7
The Sound of the West Way. Oh, the 7-inch, yeah.
They got any piano on that record?
I thought about it.
Yeah.
I think
They sound like they could, but
I bet that they do. I feel like in my mind there's a song. Well, no, there's a song where a harmonica comes in the end, sort of a wistful harmonica.
Yeah.
right.
So I could be misremembering again.
You
But
might
I
have
bet
it
you if
twisted.
I listen to that record when I get home, I'll be like, oh, damn, it's a Chin Chin song I could have included. But the Vanilla Muffins I had to put on. So a strange band from a strange place, Switzerland. No disrespect for any of our Swiss listeners.
Sweet, man. Ian, what do you got?
I have the Vibrators,
Mm.
Baby. The piano is definitely an afterthought in that song. It's just as the song's growing at the end and they're, playing the chorus over and over. But I love that song. And I have for over half my life now. I can say that confidently.
Yeah.
Vibrators were one of the first punk bands I got real into. Pure Mania. It's just it's a hell of a record.
I love that record.
Knox wrote that song and says it's his favorite Vibrator song he's ever written, and that when he plays it, he feels like he's on holiday.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's very sweet.
Which holiday?
I have a romantic thing with the Vibrators too. I don't know what. I mean, I love that record, but that song "Whips and Furs" is like one of my very favorite songs.
Yep.
For some reason, I have like. I mean, I guess it is sort of like a nostalgic, happy song, but I have like a deep, like nostalgic wistfulness when I hear that song for whatever reason. So yeah, they're a great band.
Yeah.
Vibrators.
Hugely influential. Stiff Little Fingers, of course, got their name from one of their songs.
Yeah.
Exploited named their
Sure
second
took them
album after one of
And
their
covered
songs.
it,
Yeah,
and they are
right.
very bitter. I'm told about the fact that their most well-known song, most people don't know that they wrote it. Like,
The album was produced by Robin Mayhew, who was the sound engineer for Bowie during the Ziggy Stardust period. And that shit's classic.
yeah,
That hit after hit.
that's a good
Hell
choice.
yeah.
I can't argue with that.
And that being Knox's favorite Vibrator song, makes me wonder if he wishes the band were a little more in that direction, because that is like kind of a standalone song in their catalog.
Definitely.
But it's great, and it's definitely a punk song, as pretty as it is.
Yeah, definitely.
Pretty punk.
Well, I mean, this is the piano episode, so there's more than a few pretty wistful, pensive, romantic songs on here. I mean, it's piano music.
What
Yeah.
you got, Kenton?
So this next one I have is a local Portland band.
Oh, I knew this was coming.
Yeah. What do you? I'll let you guys guess. You guys say it on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3.
Plastic Bomb.
Plastic Bomb.
No, it's not Plastic Bomb. But I'm
Oh.
glad you said that, because obviously I thought about Plastic Bomb because the intro to that is incredible piano
It's
work.
beautiful.
And it's incredibly rememberable because it's just in the beginning of the song and then just
it's the beginning of
becomes
the record.
ripping hardcore.
It's- yeah.
It just it sets a mood and then that mood changes quick. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about a Wipers song.
Ah.
It's off of their 1981 album, Youth of America. So, Taking Too Long. Are you guys familiar with that one?
That is the Wipers album I'm least familiar with.
That is the one that I consider. I mean, I don't want to talk shit. It's the artier one where it's like 3 songs, right? And it's like
No, I think there are some longer ones.
it's
I
the
think
most
it's 6
it's the
or
one with
7
long songs.
Yes.
Yeah, I love Over the Edge. I listen to Over the Edge and
Over the
and,
Edge
Is
is
This
my
Real
personal
often.
favorite, but
Wipers is on my rack. I pull it off less frequently.
Sure. I would go to Youth of America over Wipers' first album, but I'm very much a Over the Edge man. But this particular song is one of the shorter songs off the album, clocking in around 3 minutes or 3.5 minutes. So where the rest of them are like 7 or 11 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
This is the most traditionally Wipers-esque song on it, and the piano on it isn't incredibly prominent, but it's prominent enough in these void of space that you hear it, and I just wanted to put that in there to represent my home, and I'm glad we had a moment to appreciate Poison Idea in the same breath.
I knew
but-
they were going to come up today. But
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine they wouldn't, because that was one of the first 3 or 4 songs that popped into my brain
Yeah.
that like punk songs that prominently feature the piano.
Although, have you heard the Satyricon compilation version where it's guitar instead of piano at the beginning?
Oh no,
I haven't.
I think I like it more. Or
That
maybe just
sounds-
because I've heard the other one so many times.
sounds exciting.
But it's definitely worth
that's the
listening
joy
to.
of live albums when you're already a fan of a band is that
It's not live.
it's not.
No. It's just it's a compilation. It's called Satyricon. It's bands that played at Satyricon frequently.
Oh, not recorded at the Satyricon.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
And it's a ripping. I mean, the original's obviously ripping as well, but it's an awesome version of Plastic
Cool.
Bomb. Yeah.
I want to hear that. Yeah, so that's it on my wipers, but Taking Too Long by the Wipers. My number
Nice.
4.
Matty, let's get into number 3.
Yes, number 3. Okay, no, 3, 2, 1 was where it got a lot easier for me. These are songs that really just jumped out immediately, and they were almost interchangeable. But I think I got it, the nuances of it into a proper order. Number 3 is the Dickies, "Give It Back," which is it was released as a single, but it was also included on the incredible Shrinking Dickies. And to me, that's like a perfect punk song with piano. You know, it's like ripping and fast. I mean, it's a punk song for sure. And they do the thing with the piano accent like the whole time, but also there's like a virtuoso piano solo in the middle of it. So it's like definitely like one of the more memorable parts of the song. And it's a song that I love. It's a song like always gets me going. It's like a song I put on when I'm like running and shit. You know, it's like will wake me up. And I don't. The Dickies are a band that I've like kind of hot and cold on. Like I like the first incarnation of the Dickies before the guitar player died a lot. You know,
When did the guitar player die?
1980 was
Okay.
when Chuck Wagon.
So the first 2 records are
the first 2 records is
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
much it. After that, I think that it gets too silly for me.
Sure.
Even the stuff before that, like, can be a little silly for me. But
Killer Clowns in Outer Space.
yeah, well, that's like later
Yeah,
period.
You're
It just
Gone.
took us over.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. But when they're good, you know, it's got the same energy as like Ramones for me, where it's like it's very silly and poppy, but still aggressive and raw. You know, like it has a little bit of an edge to it. And I think that "Give It Back" is like the best example of that in their catalog. So I had to put that on there.
Some
Awesome.
shit that sounds like they're like they sped the tape up or something. You know, like,
Exactly.
I
yeah.
don't think they did, but it has that feeling.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think the Dickies are such a cool band because, I mean, obviously they're a punk band and like almost on this kind of pop level to it, but they're also just kind of ripping like a borderline hardcore and like in my eyes.
They get
it's,
fast, but I wouldn't because of the vocals mainly. I wouldn't
Yes,
call it
totally.
hard. But the speed is
It's pretty fucking ripping, especially for whatever that album came out in like 78 or something. Incredible
1978, yeah,
that's
totally.
pretty fucking early for shit like that.
It was. I think they were maybe the first LA band to get signed. Or as in my research for this, I read that there was a lot of controversy, a lot of contempt for them in the early LA punk scene. because they
first LA punk band to get signed.
Well, I was trying to figure out if it was them or X, but yeah, like from that scene, because they were, you know, cutting their teeth with the Dills and the Screamers and stuff like that, like the early, early
First
wave,
wave,
of
I
LA
would think
punk.
like X Germs.
Yeah, but I think no, they're a little before that. I think that
well, that's all late 70s.
I think that, but when I think of the first ones, I think the Dills, for instance, and the Dickies predate. Maybe not the Germs, but definitely like X Black Flag, Alice Bag. I think that they're the very first ones. You know,
Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, when did Los Angeles come out? 1980?
1979.
Yeah.
79. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, Decline of Western Civilization came out in 80 and was filmed in 1979. So I don't know if X is playing songs off Los Angeles. I don't know if the album was out yet or about to come out. But I think that I associate, like I said, the Dills and the Dickies and the Screamers as being slightly earlier.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if their first album came out in 78, you got to imagine they were at least, putting stuff together in 77 or earlier, before actually producing a
Same with the
record.
Germs, right? They had the forming single in 77, but I think that was self-released, and then
And they lucked out and got Joan Jett to do a killer job on the album.
Totally, yeah. But the Dickies were seen as kind of a sellout band because they signed to EMI, who picked them because they had dropped the Sex Pistols for being too controversial. And in that void, they were like, well, we want another punk band that's a little more commercial and isn't going to be so much trouble. So they signed the Dickies, and their first big charting single in England was was the Banana Split song, or
Oh,
whatever.
sure.
The
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tra-la-la, which is not my favorite Dickie song. So I can understand why that might engender some contempt amongst punks in general.
And then, of course, they've raised some red flags in recent years with the singer shouting out some sexist bullshit.
Indeed, I do not
Uh,
co-sign or condone any of the things that they are known for now, or them being in existence as a band, frankly, at this
Sure.
point.
Oh, honestly, I didn't know about any of that. I saw them with the Damned and Agnostic Front and DI and a really bad version of the Misfits.
Mm.
When I think I was 16. And honestly, the Damned is really cool because they were like full vampire, gothic, whatever.
Mhm.
Like the aesthetic to the band was really cool. And they also killed it, but the Dickies were so high energy and fun. They like fucking I was floored by it because I'm like, damn, these guys are old, but they're actually killing it, which is so not the case with a lot of the classic bands that you love. They
sure.
put on such a good show when I saw them. But I mean, that's fucking 17 years ago or
Yeah.
whatever the hell,
But I mean, their best material is great. Is fun, and I mean, a song like "You Drive Me Ape, You Big Gorilla" is like it doesn't get much. Or "Fan Mail,"
yeah,
they have
sure.
some.
the first three opening tracks, especially to Dawn of the Dickies, are just like so fucking good.
They're so good. But I definitely do a lot of skipping around on that record.
On Dawn of the Dickies?
I think so. Yeah, both the records.
You don't
too,
like
some-
getting stuck in a pagoda?
No, I don't necessarily like getting stuck in a pagoda. Watching a pagoda. Actually, that song's okay.
Yeah, it's it's good.
Yeah.
I'll get stuck
Is
there.
Mental Ward on Dawn of the Dickies or on Incredible Shrinking Dickies? They got some ones in there. I like the covers though, like Nights in White Satin and
Yep.
Eve of Destruction.
Paranoid.
Yeah. Paranoid. They got some good stuff. They got some good stuff on those two records. But everything after that, they jumped the shark for me. But again, a great piano song, and that's my number 3.
Sweet, man. Very
Solid
good.
pick.
Ian, what do you got, my man?
A band we have already discussed very briefly when we were talking about Vancouver, British Columbia.
Mm.
Pointed Sticks.
What a good band.
The song "Part of the Noise."
Oh, okay.
The final track on their first and only record, "Perfect Youth." It's got both synth and piano, and it's great.
Yeah,
the-
they were the
the-
first Canadian band to be signed to Stiff Records, even though the record never came out.
Right, they had a couple singles out on Stiff, but then due to Stiff Records running out of money or whatever,
Yeah.
the LP did not come out until '80.
It's a shame. I got a bootleg of that record when I was in the Czech Republic. There's some, if you're in Europe, I envy you because you have all the best bootlegs, even though a lot of the stuff is now getting like officially reissued.
Mhm.
10 years ago, records you don't see and you can buy for $10 that was awesome to me. And that Pointed Sticks record is one of my favorites.
Mm.
It's solid. It's fun. It's lighthearted. It's I'd call it pop punk even. But,
And I'd like to point out one thing too about the Pointed Sticks is that they have a cover of The Witch by the Sonics.
The Sonics, yeah.
And nowadays it sounds stupid that like, oh yeah, everyone knows the Sonics, but
Right.
the Sonics
No.
were actually like really obscure. Like
Pre-internet
like-
era, yeah.
yeah, like the Cramps were huge Sonics fans and stuff, but them covering that as early. I think that album was recorded in 1980. I don't remember. Do you know?
It came out in '80.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right in there, but that's still really, really early for being aware and to do a version of that.
That's important though, because the Sonics are one of the greatest garage rock bands of all time, and they were definitely less well known until they were in car commercials and stuff.
Right.
Sidebar: in the time that I have lived in Portland, I think in the last 10 years, they have toured with the Flaming Groovies. I know that they played Portland with the Flaming Groovies at some point in the last 10 years, which I really wanted to see. I couldn't go for reasons I don't remember, but I remember thinking about, man, like the collective age of the members of those two bands got to be like a fucking 1,000 years old, like because if this is, say it was 2010, the Sonics, they were in their early 20s and the early 60s, right? So those guys are like 70, 80 years old now at this point.
I think they were a little younger. I think they were actually like late teens. Like I think they were like teenagers.
Okay, well they're pushing 70 then.
Yeah,
when
they're
I would
old
have
as
gone to
fuck.
see
They're
them.
getting
old as
old
fucking dirt.
AF.
All right. Yeah.
Pointed Sticks. They got their the name from the Monty Python sketch. The self-defense against fresh fruit.
Oh yeah, I love that skit. I had no idea until I got it. Oh my god.
Well, yeah, where
How do you defend yourself against a banana?
where someone gives the advice to maybe you should defend yourself against something more like pointed sticks.
Yeah. So good.
And then initially we're called Ernie Dick and the Pointed Sticks.
Pointed
and
sticks. Interesting.
Eventually shortened it.
That's
Very
some good
cool.
trivia there. I did
Yeah.
not know that.
Another fun trivia: the drummer's name is Ian Tiles, which is funny to me.
Free plug for your tiling business.
That's right.
Good choice.
Great song. Part of the noise. Very relatable.
Right?
I'm going to go home and listen to it right now because I've never been a deep Pointed Sticks fan. I only knew Out of Luck really because someone put it on a comp.
Oh god, that song's so good.
Yeah,
though.
it's an amazing song.
Yeah.
You know.
Part of the noise is definitely my favorite non-single Pointed Sticks song. It easily could be a single. It's the name of their a compilation of theirs. It's like it's a fucking hit.
Part of the
It
noise.
just-
No, I'll hit that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah.
And also again, I got to plug this to our listeners. We do have a corresponding playlist for every episode. So if you go into the details of the episode notes, there is a link to the Spotify playlist, and you can listen to all these songs in case you're just scratching your head and wishing we were playing music. We wish we were playing music too, but copyright is a real
Money.
thing apparently. So we can't.
This is going to be a good playlist. A great playlist.
Yeah, for real.
So far, so good.
I think it'll flow well into it actually too, like stylistically.
What you got for number 3?
Okay, number 3 is from a band that we have waxed romantically about in the past, from 1984. The album is called Let It Be. The band is The Replacements.
The Replacements. Oh,
Is that
androgynous.
punk?
Androgynous, exactly.
You're calling that a punk song, huh?
That's what I'm saying. My first one is the most capital P punk, but I
Yeah.
can say that this is the last punk record by The Replacements, and I would like to.
It's a stretch.
It's a stretch,
Great
but
song,
I'm
great
doing
song.
it.
This is like Slops and Pool.
This
you
is
know, like, I'll allow
lowercase-
it because we're amongst friends, and I do enjoy. Only for the fact that I really do enjoy that record and that song. I don't know if it's a punk record, but you know what? I won't argue.
There's punk songs on it.
There's punk songs on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
This is
Gary's
not one
got
of
a
them.
boner.
Yes, Gary's got a boner. Yeah, I love this record. I love this song. I think it's like really beautiful in the message that it conveys, and it like is one of the few songs that came to mind when it came to fully accentuating like the piano element of a song.
Shitload of piano on that
oh my
track.
god, dude!
Yeah, definitely.
It's like they cranked that piano to 11. So
Oh, big time.
yeah, I know it's a stretch. It's definitely a lowercase p.
It's one of the most beautiful replacements. I mean, I would say that it has nearly moved me to tears before that song. Like, I love that song. In a record where it's very difficult for me to pick what my favorite song off that record is a contender, a strong
Yeah,
contender.
that's top 3 for me off that
It
album.
changes like every week. Like sometimes it's my favorite thing. Sometimes it's a Kiss cover.
Sure, yeah, Black Diamond,
Which is one of my favorite
great.
covers. That would be best punk covers later on in the
Oh,
series.
you're calling that a punk cover?
Well,
All right, well, you proved my
it
point.
inspired
then.
me. All right, okay, we'll leave it off the list. But yeah,
Yeah, so I get it, but I had to talk about it. It came to mind, and also because my introduction to the Replacements was through the earlier punk stuff, so I still in my head give them a place in punk. They're a punk band to me, though the song is not overtly punk, but neither is the Subhuman song that I picked either.
totally.
So, but there are piano in both those songs, in
Yeah,
case you
yeah.
guys are wondering. So, check it out. You can write us at podcast.top5@gmail.com, and you can tell me how wrong or right I am. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, we want to hear from you, the people.
Yeah, what do you got, Matty? Number 2?
We're on number 2 already. Wow. Okay, moving right along. Okay, well, number 2 was an easy one for me. I picked a band that has been mentioned before at some length. The Damned, Melody Lee. That was probably the first thing that popped in my mind of like punk songs with piano.
Incredibly beautiful.
That's an incredibly beautiful song. It's my favorite song, favorite Damned song off my favorite Damned record. Machine Gun Etiquette is. It's difficult for me to say that it's better than Damn Damn Damn, but it's my favorite.
I don't think so. I think people love the first record, but I think Damned fans are all on the same page where it's like Machine Gun Etiquette. That's it.
Yeah, it's kind of everything because it's still like a punk record. Like it still has the rippers on. You get Anti-Pope and
Anti-Pope's
and
so
the title
good,
track,
yeah.
and there's so many good stuff. But then you get a little of the weirdness that's gonna come, like These Hands and. I love it. The whole album has like a romance to it for me. And Melody Lee, I only didn't get the number one spot because there is not really much piano or any in the song. It's that beautiful piano intro.
Yeah.
But it's just like one of the most emotionally evocative piano intros I've ever. It's like looking at a painting or something. It makes me look wistfully out into the window and think of my life when I hear that piano intro,
Yeah, very similar to the Poison Idea Plastic Bomb. It really sets a tone, and then it goes into like a ripping
song. But the song is like that too, because the lyrics are like kind of ambiguous. Like it can kind of be about like a painting, whatever you want. Like Melody Lee, a broken man and a broken dream, a burst of speed, a change of heart. Your life was cruel. They called it art. What does that even mean? But like you can project your own emotions onto it, and it's just I would say it's one of my favorite songs, not just favorite songs with piano. So that was my number 2.
I agree so much with everything that you just said that it was actually my number 1 pick.
Oh, I didn't mean to preempt you there.
Yeah, you got me. Yeah, I would just wholeheartedly reiterate every word you just spoke, both about the song and the record.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was my number 1. And actually, so the Melody Lee is a character from a comic called Bunty, an English comic.
Huh.
And there's some debate about Captain Sensible may have just stolen all of the lyrics from the word bubbles in the comic.
Huh.
She was a character who was canceled from the comic, and Captain Sensible and his girlfriend went out to protest the cancellation of her character. It was a total of 3 people at the protest.
That's amazing.
And missed the Sid Vicious's White Kids show because of it. That's the story. Apparently, other people have read through all 37 of the 38 issues
Fucking nerds.
of this comic and not found any damned lyrics. And then also on Captain Sensible's record, Captains and Women First.
Is that the one with the rap song on it?
Yeah.
Oh, I love that song.
Yeah. What?
What? Yeah.
It's got that, but it also has a song. What's the name? Who is Melody? Who is Melody Lee Sid? Which apparently Nancy said to Sid at that concert. So there's some confusion here because
Interesting.
Was he at the show or was he protesting?
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and especially because I just quoted the lyrics incorrectly a few minutes ago. I said Melody Lee, a broken man and a broken dream, which is how I've always heard the lyric. But when I looked at the lyrics today, it's a broken mind and a broken dream. So I wanted to correct myself there, and also that's interesting.
Yeah, and the full title of the series of comics was Melody Lee, A Dancer She'll Be. And she's an orphan character, and her only goals in life are to be a dancer and find her mom. And
it adds even more to the romance of the song.
And it's also hilarious. It's like this comic, aimed at supposedly 14-year-old working class girls.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
who's 14 and I guess if their parents are working class in there. Anyway, it's a comic aimed at young girls about dancers and things like that. But Captain Sensible was very passionate about it.
Well,
Ended up writing 2 songs about this character, Melody Lee.
I could believe that. He's a strange man. When I saw The Damned in probably 2006 or 2007, they were still, first of all, fucking amazing, and I did not expect them to play like deep cuts like off of Machine Gun Etiquette, but they played Anti-Pope and Melody Lee, so I was pleasantly surprised.
Those are probably my two favorite. Well, I also love Love
You think
Song
those are
and
deep
Smash It
cuts?
Up. Like,
'Cause I-
Smash It Up.
those are the big hits, but like
You think Anti-Pope and Medley are deep cuts?
they certainly weren't
Well,
singles.
You know, I think I had so many bad experiences with like reunited punk bands, like older punk bands that are just going to only come and play whatever the fuck. They're going to play their new record and then maybe like, you know, the 4 or 5 like greatest hits that
And
I
then
just,
if they were gonna play songs off Machine Gun Etiquette, obviously it'd be Love Song
and Smash It
and
Up.
Smash It Up.
Yeah.
Like those are the hits.
Maybe Channel 9. Yeah, that's
Love
kind of
Song's good, but I think Anti-Pope's like, I mean, maybe it's just like as a
'Cause you're a
fan.
It's not the
yeah.
obvious choice. You know, if you were like compiling,
I
don't
feel
know
like
why.
that would be the obvious choice. Like if you were ever to cover a Damn song off of that album, you go Anti-Pope.
Well,
I mean,
look,
that's-
I've been screwed over a bunch of times. Maybe I set too low expectations for myself.
Sure.
all right?
Well, I love that you were pleasantly surprised.
I was pleasantly surprised. I was also pleasantly surprised because my friend and I, who were both very drunk, were trying to sort of give Captain Sensible the business a little bit, and we were screaming for what his solo rap song in between every song. You know,
What's the happy talk or whatever his
Happy Feet?
Happy.
I don't know.
The biggest hit off that record, Happy Something. It was like a massive hit.
It was
in
a
the
huge hit.
UK.
It made him like a
Yeah.
great amount of money. But anyway, so we were yelling out for what, and in the like you know in between, like, he began to play it for a minute and looked at us and
you got
kinda,
his
like
attention.
gritted
That's
his
great.
teeth. Yeah,
oh
exactly.
no way! That's awesome.
And I spit on him too, which
Did he
was
spit back?
no, he didn't. And I read later that was one of the things he hated the most about early punk was he hated the spitting. So I felt a little bad.
Oh, what
but,
a germaphobe!
but he did smile at me, and I think he just enjoyed our general exuberance.
I love when you get noticed by a band that you love as a crowd member.
Yeah, totally. You can cut this out too, but I had a meeting. You're talking about getting noticed by an artist you enjoy. When I was on PMS 84 tour, at the end of it, I went to see Toots and the Maytals with some people in Spain because I was so goddamn sick of punk because I'd been to like 30 fucking punk shows. And I was right up in the front, and Toots, who at the time was 75 years old, but he looked amazing. He's wearing like a leather jumpsuit, kind of like Eddie Murphy in Raw.
Sure.
And like a leather hat and like gold chains and like these like black sunglasses like Lokes, you know, and he was walking around high-fiving people, and he looked at me from across the stage and walked directly over to me and gave me a fist bump. Like our eyes met and he walked over and noticed me and gave me that, you know. So, you know, game recognized game.
Yeah.
Real recognized real. So I had a moment of connection with the great man.
What an experience to have.
It was an
And a
amazing
positive
experience.
one too.
Yeah. And he was really good too. It was like amazingly good for a person of his age, and it was just awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean,
R.I.P. Toots.
there is something about like seeing these bands. Obviously, we've all been disappointed by seeing old bands, but there is something about seeing them actually go. Like, I feel like when I was younger, maybe that was the problem. Was when I was younger, I'd set the bar so high because I only knew their recorded work and I expected something on par. And then I see it and it never lived up to it, except for a handful of bands that really did a killer job. And as I've gotten older, there's only a handful of bands that I'll go see anymore.
Yeah.
The Bad Brains really broke me when I saw them.
I was like,
and I got to tell you, musically, they were great. Sounded like the record.
but HR,
HR is like, dude,
he's been gone for a while.
yeah,
Oh yeah, definitely.
I was like 10 and still like,
yeah. I straight up I just gave up at that point. I'm like, I'm
Probably
not
13
really into
actually, but-
I'm not into reunions. I'm not into doing anything.
one of the very, very worst reunion bands I've ever seen was on my list today, the Vibrators.
Oh yeah, they were terrible. I got into a
Atrocious.
fist fight that night. That's on the story. Yeah. At the
I
Ash Street
saw a
Saloon.
60-year-old woman's breasts, and I wish I hadn't.
I've seen so many washed up punk bands. Menace was horrifyingly bad.
Oh, that sucks.
Played with them. It was just the drummer.
Oh,
realize
that's
that,
not even. Yeah, drop the name. Just quit.
Angry Samoans were shit. I don't know why I went to see them. Agent Orange was shit. Just
Saw them
all
same year as
terrible.
the Vibrators. Angry Samoans I saw, but it was worth it because I snuck in.
I saw them in San Francisco. They were okay, but they were only okay to begin with as a band, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, Back from Samoa's.
I just think musically it's super juvenile. It's not.
There's
like,
a lot
it
to
doesn't
dislike.
hold
There
up.
are many valid reasons to dislike that band, but strictly musically, I mean, that was also one of my first punk records. I quite enjoy the non horribly fucked up songs on that record. You know.
Sure.
Agreed.
My Old
And-
Man's a Fatso is like, in the canon of like great teen
It's so,
angst
that's what I'm
songs.
saying. It's
I
so
also
juvenile. It's
think
so
they're in
stupid.
a similar realm as the Dickies, playing this like maybe they're a little more hardcore, but like super fast stuff, but not screaming about it. It's more
Yeah.
it's more just like
No,
silly
early
and
hardcore.
fun.
I mean,
And,
I would say them and Agent Orange too. Like a song like Bloodstains is like you'd call that like a proto. It's not quite a
Yeah.
hardcore song, but it's almost there.
I would say that's more hardcore just because of time and place. It's
Yeah.
really just a punk song, but
It's pretty cool, man. Also, like all that shit on Posh Boy, I'm a big fan of.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Just to defend my point earlier, if you want to edit this in about whether to expect the Damned to play Melody Lee or not, my argument is that I think that if you go to see any band that has 5+ albums, you cannot necessarily expect to hear any non-single cut.
Exactly.
Any song that's not a single, I would not be surprised if
and 5+
if I-
good albums.
Yeah.
Like
Plus whatever they probably have. I bet you if you look in the Damned's discogs right now, I bet they have 9 records because they put 3 or 4 out in the past 20 years. I'm sure.
And can I
and
talk to you?
even some of their like their 2000 shit is like pretty fucking good.
The new cuts they played were not awful.
Well, can I put this to you guys? Because I'm curious. What do you think? I feel like old bands should just steer away completely from all of their hits. I feel like if people are going to see, well, not all of them, but like,
What the hell are you talking about?
What do you
I feel
mean?
like-
No, I feel the opposite.
I feel like there are so many bands that I've seen numerous times where it's like, I already saw you play this set 5 years ago. Like, give me, you have like 8 albums to work with. Why are you only giving me the same 12 songs? Like, that's the most
Oh.
upsetting thing to me. It's like, you keep playing the same ones, and I get it because people want to see that, but like, you should also be like digging deeper each time. Like,
It depends how many songs they have. I mean, I've had the opposite problem with bands. Like every time I've seen Motorhead, they have not played the majority of my favorite songs. I mean, I would be, when I went to see Motorhead, I would have been perfectly happy if they only played stuff off the first 5 records,
I would
See-
have
Or
been
6, yeah.
completely happy if
Ecstatically
they only
happy.
played stuff off the first 2 records.
Yeah, and
Like,
I was very lucky that they played a few songs that I wanted to hear and not, they mostly played newer stuff, which I
Well,
was not as into.
I'll bring up my boy Glenn Danzig. I've seen him a number of times. One of the most single artists that I've seen the most over the course of my life, and he always plays a handful of songs, and he always has a new album that he's usually touring on.
Yeah.
At least in the earlier days when I saw him. So he'd always he's pretty good at picking only a couple songs off of each album.
Yeah.
Because he has, at this point, has 10 records out. So that alone, a couple songs from each would be 20 songs. But he also threw in a couple. I've seen him like 10 times, but there are times where he's like, I saw him play a song off Danzig 4, and I was so pumped because I had never seen that before. And as like a diehard fan, like I would love to see him play any song I've never seen him like perform, because he keeps playing majority of the same hits from all of his albums.
I think it's situational. I mean, Danzig is a guy who's been active for for a significant length
Well,
of time.
Motorhead
Right?
too, though.
Yeah, Motorhead too. And
they have
Motorhead's a
so
different.
much material.
Motorhead's so much more. But I mean, let's say, just to use the Damned for an example, there's a band that put out 4 records during their creative prime, and then went through a long period of
I
being
disagree.
inactive.
I think 4 is
Okay.
is shortcutting that.
Let's say a band that that was around to the mid '80s, then were inactive or broken up for a span of a decade, and then in say the mid 2000s they put out a new record. I don't want to hear more than 3 or 4 songs off that new record.
No,
I will respectfully listen to them.
No, absolutely.
But I mean, that's the fucking worst when you go to see a band.
You're
that-
right. It's like when Urban Waste put out an LP when they only had that one 7-inch.
Yeah.
And they toured with only the guitar player and a bunch of randos, and I stumbled in on acid trying to go see them. Like, this is so bad.
Yeah. Or the Zero Boys or something. They did that too. Although I'm told that they played all of.
They played
Vicious Circle.
good shit. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen them twice now and been very happy.
Well, there's a lot of
times.
there's more than 2 or 3 original guys, right?
Oh yeah.
I was told by some people who saw them in the Bay that they opened with a bunch of new material, and then they played Vicious Circle in its entirety.
Well, that's
But-
funny
which is
because
great.
That's
you
all I
know.
need.
Yeah, Vicious is like the shit that got me into him. Actually, the Living in the 80s stuff is actually the first stuff I ever heard from them. So I was extra blown away when I got Vicious Circle, and then The first album, like LP, I ever bought by them was actually Make It Stop from 1993, which
Mhm.
is an album they put out. But because they never reissued that record, I couldn't get it when I was younger. And I love the Zero Boys, so I saw it. I'm like, oh, I'll get it.
Yeah.
And my favorite song, Blood is Good, that's on there, actually came out on there. It's an earlier song that they recorded in the 90s because it came out on the History of Zero Boys compilation of early works later on. Anyways,
So hard to
Don't
pick
care
it,
about
yeah.
that record.
Yeah.
the History of?
Yeah.
There's some really good stuff on there.
There's
They got a couple other good singles.
There's
but
some demo versions of stuff on that one, right? Like,
Yeah,
there's
and
different
stuff that
version of-
wasn't recorded that's from that same era that we love and not
Yeah.
later. All right, Ian, just to get back on track here. So what is your number 2?
Buzzcocks.
Ah.
Something's Gone Wrong Again.
Oh, that's a great one.
A great song. It's got the classic, you know,
Do, 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 do.
exactly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The Now I Want to Be Your Dog,
Yeah.
which I do not consider a punk song, which is
Well, if we're putting the replacements on here, I suppose. we
And
could've
these
done
other
the
ones I'm
students in
about to
there.
put on here, yeah. Shoot.
Yeah.
but the same, just writing the one note. But Something's Gone Wrong Again by the Buzzcocks. Awesome song. Again, very relatable.
Mhm.
Anyone who's ever had a bad day
Yeah.
can relate to at least one line in this song. Whether
Yeah.
it's your the yolk in your egg breaking, or not having enough money for cigarettes,
Yeah.
or missing the bus.
You
You
need
know,
a
it's
smoke.
like,
Do you have 50p? The machine is broke.
something's gone wrong again.
Gone wrong again. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a punk band.
Definitely. 100%.
The second band ever to release something on their own established label after the Saints with I'm Stranded.
Mhm.
It wasn't with this song. That was with their first EP with Howard Devoto, who quit the band after that EP, saying that, describing punk, saying, what was once unhealthily fresh is now a clean old hat.
Well,
And went on to form Magazine and, do something much less punk, but also very interesting and great.
it is true. A clean old hat, huh? Well, nuts to you, Howard Devoto.
I recently picked up this single signed by Pete Shelley and Steve Diggle, which I think is probably worth even more money now that Pete Shelley has died.
Oh.
2018 heart attack.
I didn't even realize that he passed away.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah,
Did you like his solo stuff?
I've never listened to it.
Nor have I.
There's some pretty good stuff. If you're Buzzcocks, it's different, but it's not bad as far as like people who go on to do later work solo stuff. Pete Shelley's stuff is palatable.
Palatable. That sounds
That's a
promising.
ringing endorsement there.
Yeah.
I find it. Many people say that it's unlistenably terrible, but I find it palatable.
Well, might be underplaying it, you know.
Okay.
I also got the Lipstick 7 single, which features the same riff as Magazine Shot by Both Sides. Also signed. I'm pretty stoked on
Neat.
on those singles. But yeah, Something's Gone Wrong Again. It's dark, it's eerie, it's long for a punk song. I think it's like 4.5 minutes, but it's got a really, really great guitar solo.
It's one of my favorite Buzzcock songs. I put
Cool.
it up there. Maybe Harmony in My Head might be my number one, but
Yeah.
it's a great song.
And it's got piano, so
Yeah.
it's my number 2.
It's one of my favorites.
What's
So,
your absolute favorite?
my absolute favorite number 2?
Oh, right.
Well, my number 2 is it's a Radio Birdman track. So it's, again, maybe not punk per se, but
They're
came
punk.
out.
They're punk.
Yeah, I call them a
they
punk
they
band.
don't claim it, but
Yeah,
they're a punk band.
came off their 1981 album, Living Eyes, Smith and Weston Blues. One of my favorite songs by them. Actually, fuck it, my favorite song by them. So I had to put it on there. But the piano's prevalent in a lot of their music. but this song in particular, to me, the lyrical content of it is really good. Like one of my favorite lines, I think the first time I heard it, the one that stuck with me, that still sticks with me, is that went to a diner at 6 a.m. The waitress was rough, but the milk was skim. I don't know, for whatever reason, I thought it was just so brilliant. But the that song, for me, when I thought piano, that was where I went. And I listened to a bunch of Radio Birdman stuff, but the obvious one was to go with my favorite. And yeah, I had to put it on there. So I know it's not technically maybe a punk band, but
Proto-punk at least. Yeah.
and it came out in 1981. It's not even their early stuff from the 70s.
Was that not also on the Burn My Eye 7-inch?
You know, Ian, you're right. It was on that.
Okay. When I think piano with Radio Birdman, I think Love Kills
Sure.
from Radio's Appear with like the prevalent solo and the piano throughout it. But my favorite Radio Birdman song with piano is Snake, which is definitely an honorable mention for me. I love that song.
Yeah.
It's a very, at this point, played out chord progression and kind of a straightforward track, but they were doing that in 76, and it's so fucking good.
Yeah. I mean, like everything they did was good. Yeah, Snake, that's a good one. Yeah, I guess that's all I got to say about Radio Birdman with Smith and Wesson Blues.
I don't know that one. I'm going to listen to that when I get home.
Well, yeah, listen to the playlist.
I will.
It's awesome. You'll love it. Out of everyone I know, Matty, I think you'd love it the most.
Oh, really? Well, I will listen to it then. Will.
All right, well, we're up to the number one.
The number one spot?
And I got to know, Matty.
The top spot, the top shotter?
What is it? What's the one that does it for you the most?
Oh, well, this one was the first one popped in my head. The greatest punk song with piano, in my opinion, is Megalomania by The Blood. I mean, when we were doing this list, that was the first thing that popped in. I don't know how. I can't believe it hasn't come up on anybody else's list, frankly, because it is certainly a capital P punk song, because The Blood are punk as fuck.
And it's absolutely their best song.
It's absolutely their best song, although they have many other great songs too. False Gestures for a Devious Public is one of my favorite UK82 era punk records. They don't sound like anybody else, and like the song Megalomania, it checks all the boxes. Like it has an epic piano intro. The song, it incorporates it into the song. It's blazing fast. It's just a great song. It's just a great and memorable song.
Undeniable.
A very great song by a band that has, I think, many great songs. And I think that when I think of punk using piano, it doesn't get any better than that for me.
Sweet. All right.
And did you see their reunion show?
I did not, but I heard it was terrible.
Yep.
Yeah, I heard it was unspeakably bad.
2 thumbs down.
2 thumbs down, 4 thumbs down. Yeah. But that was released in 1983. I didn't learn very much about The Blood that I didn't already know when I was perusing through. I flipped through Burning Britain again before I came over here. I didn't realize their original name was Coming Blood.
Oh.
Coming Blood.
How do you spell that?
I just came some blood. I'm coming blood.
Oh.
Yeah. I think with an O, not with a U.
Oh.
But
yeah, which is actually how you spell coming.
Yeah.
What?
C-U-M is not a real spelling. That's a thing that's happened after the fact.
Oh, my smartphone told me.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that was later.
When I'm typing about how I came blood, it always corrects me the wrong way. I'm going to have to write Apple. The predictive text. So that's my number one for certain.
Cool. And I guess to kind of circle back a little bit, Shakespeare said that, language is the tongue of the common people, meaning that it evolves, words take on new meanings, and as time goes on. So at this time, when the band started, that wasn't an actual proper spelling that you would find in a dictionary or anything like that. So
that makes sense. To those who are not in the studio with us, which is everyone listening to this podcast, I tipped my hand, if you will, in that I wore my The Blood T-shirt to this recording in the hopes that maybe one of my co-hosts would notice and be like, "Oh, I see what you did there."
I did
very
it, but
clever.
now I'm very aware of why you took your leather jacket off.
Yeah, it's also very hot in this cramped attic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we like to keep it nice and warm here. It's not
Mm.
quite summer, so hell yeah, dude.
That's
The
my numero
blood.
uno, the blood.
Megalomaniac.
Megalomania.
What is a megalomaniac?
Someone who thinks they're God. Someone who thinks that they're divine.
So the song is
about
called.
the Pope. I
Is
believe.
it? It's megalomania or maniac?
It's megalomania,
Mania.
I believe.
Okay.
but he says megalomaniac in the
Right,
song
okay.
too. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
Well,
Well-
I already gave my number one.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, do you have anything more to say about the Damned? Just
About the Damned, yeah. About Machine Gun Etiquette, yeah.
Do it.
about
well-
Melody Lee.
About Melody Lee, less.
All right.
I mean, you've done. If you knew more about Melody Lee,
I've
I would be
exhausted
beyond impressed. You know?
most of my Melody Lee
I'd be
knowledge.
concerned even if you knew more about it than you've already shared with us.
But I do know that on Machine Gun Etiquette, that 3 of the 4 members of the Clash are featured on that record.
Oh,
2 of them doing hand claps during
yeah. Joe Strummer does the hand claps.
Joe Strummer and Paul Simonon,
Paul Simonon.
the bass player, and then Topper, the drummer. I don't even know how
Topper
to
heat
say.
on, head on,
Yeah, exactly.
head on.
Both he and Joe Strummer sing backups on Noise, Noise, Noise.
Hmm.
And then beyond that, for the B-side for I Just Can't Be Happy Today, their cover of Sweet Ballroom Blitz,
Hmm.
it's Lemmy playing bass and singing backups.
Oh, I did not know
which
that.
Makes that
Even more
cover a
special.
little more special, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Very cool.
It's a hell of a record.
It's an
And
amazing record.
I know I've mentioned this in other podcasts, but it's got Algie from Tank playing bass on the whole record.
Hmm.
I Captain Sensible might play bass on a couple songs, but Algie is the bass player at that time.
Interesting.
Very
Wait for the whole album.
for the whole album. He was in the band at the time.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize
That
there was
was-
a Tank crossover.
Oh yeah,
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Hmm.
See? Learning something new.
I love those fun factoids of the people sitting in for like studio session work and stuff like that. You know.
but
Like-
it wasn't just for the record. He joined the band, so
Oh yeah.
Captain Sensible moved from bass to lead guitar, and they were like, "Oh, we need a bass player." Algie came on.
Totally. But I mean, like the Clash popping in and doing
Oh,
hand
yeah,
claps and stuff.
for
or,
sure.
Or like
Yeah.
when Phil Lynnett's on that second Johnny Thunders record, like, you know, and I always thought that was really cool. They're like, oh, Phil Lynnett's just like hanging around and being like, sure, fuck it, I'll like,
yeah,
you know, punch
and
in a
that's
couple
full
of logos.
crossover of like scenes, like
Totally, yeah.
Damned and Clash. It's like okay,
Something
yeah.
not obvious.
Yeah, crossing the pond even.
And
on
I'm
that
just
one.
wondering what the fuck was Mick Jones doing? Why is he not on the record? It's like all of his other boys are in there doing shit. It's like
hanging out with his mother that day. Or
Oh,
I don't know. I
okay.
mean,
yeah, I guess it probably just did take a day
yeah.
to do some claps and backup vocals.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Machine Gun Etiquette.
For my money, there's no finer a damned record than Machine Gun Etiquette
And no finer a piano track
than Melody Lee.
when it comes to punk music. That's my number one.
What I never understood though fully is what is the etiquette to a machine gun? Like,
I think it's a play on words. It's or like not. It's a misinterpretation of words. I think.
Yeah.
Michelle something elephant. I think it's like it's a fucking joke. I
Oh,
mean, you know
okay.
the
Yeah.
Damned. Like they
They're
have
cheeky, as they say
yeah.
in England.
Maddie, do you know Turkey Song?
Turkey song?
Turkey Song is another. It's a B-side from the Machine Gun Etiquette. I think you'd really like it.
I don't know that I do. I gotta look that up.
It's got Captain Sensible. He sings lead vocals and plays mandolin. And
Oh,
I just know you like that word and
turkey? Yeah, damn right.
and that food.
Turkey's all right. It's healthy. I
there's better
guess.
flesh out there.
Yeah, it's all right. It's no octopus, but you know, 'cause I do love me some octopus. But yeah.
It's just some damned shit,
That's cool. I mean, I like conceptually.
Like,
I like
turkey,
trying
get out
to
of my
make
house,
sense
I
of
think.
these things that you hear all the time. So, like, machine gun etiquette is like, it sounds, borderline. May I say the word beautiful?
Yeah.
but also doesn't make complete sense. but it leaves a lot to think about and ponder. What is the etiquette to
I'm
a
going
machine
with
gun?
it's definitely a joke.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah, it's just a clever
And
title.
I think it's Michelle something elephant.
I don't even know what you're referring to, but it sounds good.
I think it's Japanese.
Is that like
Huh.
like a misunderstanding of something, or
Yes.
yeah, they're
Very much like the band you brought up earlier, Radio Birdman,
mhm.
who got their name from misinterpreted Stooges lyrics, Radio Burnin'.
Oh, they're not saying Radio Birdman.
Yeah. I always assumed it was meant to be like an oxymoronic statement about like, how does one have machine gun etiquette? Like you think of etiquette as something to do with mannered, proper behavior, contrasted with like the brutality of a device like a machine gun or its commentary on war or something.
That
like
is such an American thought process.
No, but you're right, because that is more of an oxymoron than it is a paradox.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
So
But I don't think like who's thinking about machine guns in England.
I guess I don't know. I mean, I just assumed that.
I
Listen,
mean,
if-
maybe plenty of people are. I don't know.
Plenty.
if you're in England and you're listening and thinking about machine guns, we'd like to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. How do you feel? How do you, the listener, feel about
Are you afraid of them? I am.
it? I am as well.
Anyway,
Anywho, that's good.
Kenton
I think we've done some good work on machine gun etiquette and the damned in general.
and Melody got its due respect.
Yeah, by far.
Absolutely. I'm happy to have listened to everything you had to say, because I have been totally into this conversation tonight.
Mm.
I couldn't be more stoked on my guest and my co-host and all of their picks. I'm super stoked on this.
Hell yeah.
And it's sad that it's coming to an end, because I'm about to give you my last one.
We could just keep going.
We could just keep going and going. But for now, we'll stick to the 5. And my number 1 is the band The Jam. The song is Monday off of Sound Effect.
Oh, okay.
The Jammed,
The Jammed.
The Jammed, not the cover band of The Jam. I love them. No. The Jam.
You got me there. Tickled me just so.
The Jam, I think, are like easily top 5 favorite English bands for me.
Period.
Period.
Period, huh?
Yeah.
Whoa.
I absolutely love him.
That's a lot
Paul,
of respect.
Paul Weller, like, I've never gotten too into his later stuff, like the Style Council and
They're cool.
his solo work. I like it. I've listened to it, but I've never been totally hooked by it.
Yeah.
I can't say I have either, but I do think they're cool.
Yeah.
They are very cool.
The Jam, though, is a band. It's funny. I came full circle on, because when I first heard it, I thought, this sucks. This isn't punk when I first heard it when I was younger.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten older, especially later and later, and specifically this album, Paul Weller refers to as the best record the Jam ever did.
And isn't that like actually still a Dollar Bin record?
Mm.
Oh, no.
No. Oh, okay.
No, if it is, I'm going to buy them all.
Last time I looked, it was.
Which
but-
one?
Sound effects.
Sound effects. Yeah, I used to see Setting Suns for like $2-3 all the time too.
Really?
Which is a shame because
It's not a shame. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
yeah,
Hey,
it is awesome. I mean, the idea that album wouldn't get its due, because that might be my favorite Jam record. Actually.
yeah, that's the one right before it, I
It's got
believe.
Eden Rifles and Saturday's Kids and which Saturday's Kids?
Newtown Rifles.
The Eton Rifles. It's
Eton.
like about being in prep school or something like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a great track.
Yeah.
I'm in the city through and through. Just the fact
Oh, I
that
mean, yeah,
Paul
that's-
Weller was fucking 17
Yeah.
and pulled that off. It's an amazing record.
That's
I don't
a
know,
perfect
man.
song.
They're really coming into themselves, like in
got the Batman
1980.
cover.
Like
That's-
this record came out in 1980.
Mhm.
It's got their big hit was "Town Called Malice," which is like no, wait, I might be fucking up. This might actually have "That's Entertainment," which is I think one of the greatest songs ever written. Period.
Mhm.
Like my favorite version. I mean, like covered by two of my favorite other English artists, Morrissey.
Mhm.
And even more importantly, Billy Bragg. He does an awesome
Mm.
version of this song. But the song Monday, it's really good. And this is also the one where it's controversial. I told you guys at the top of the hour that my number one, Paul Weller is, from what I could find information on, was credited as keyboard, but in this song it sounds like a classic piano, and I just, I had to put it on. It's a really good track. It's a really great band, and it sounds so on the mark for what we're talking about today that I just had to go with it.
Well, I'm going to think about it, and I'll let you know my decision of whether we should re-record this segment or not.
Absolutely. You know
tomorrow
what?
morning.
I will take this song off the
I'm gonna
playlist.
start
Also,
I'll edit this out if it's wrong, but
Melody
song,
Lee, Captain Sensible is only credited as keyboard.
Really?
So I believe that
yeah,
is
because I mean you can
just
play
an
both.
electronic, like the piano setting on a keyboard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's acceptable. All right, you got me there.
Shoot. Okay. Well, I have so much to say about the jam, but I might have to save that for when we're getting deep into the jam, which I hopefully will happen at some point during this podcast.
That's a perfectly respectable choice, and yeah, I also love the jam in doses. It's weird because they're one of those bands where I've never really spent a lot of time with the records. Like I think the only ones I've ever owned were All Mod Cons, and I got like Setting Suns in a dollar bin when I was like 14.
Modern World and
yeah, but I mean, In the City is one of my favorite songs. It's a song that I gave to my little sister when I was trying to introduce her to something like punk adjacent because she didn't like any music that I played, and I was like, well, maybe you would enjoy
How
this.
can you not like this?
Yeah, how could you hear this and not like this?
Yeah.
Be moved by this,
So I made a playlist a couple years ago now, and it was called Old English, but what it was predominantly was all later, not first wave English punk. It was all first wave English punk bands, but it was from their later songs from their later albums, and that's what made me really go deep into the last couple albums by the Jam.
Yeah,
They transitioned better than a lot of
definitely
English bands,
definitely.
but definitely made more of an effort to step outside of.
Sure, and
The
I think
comfort
for
zone.
people
What is
who
punk?
like
Yeah.
one band that I got into really late as well because I didn't find them overtly punk was The Clash. And Matty, I can't believe there's a song by The Clash.
Oh, the card sheet.
No. Julie's working for the drug squad.
Yeah,
Yeah, I didn't think of that, and that's funny because I've been listening to more Clash lately than I usually do because I like the first album quite a bit. I have to take breaks from London Calling because it's like I've heard it too many times in my life.
I had two big Clash honorable mentions
Ah,
that I'll bring up right now, and
Okay.
that would be The Card Sheet
yeah.
and Train in Vain.
Oh,
Both,
yeah.
which I would. They're barely punk songs.
Barely,
That's
yeah.
why they did not make my cut. That's how I justified excluding these. Two
Gotcha. Okay, I
amazing
like
songs.
that you guys went full blown punk because I obviously went
mean, it-
lowercase p
Totally.
by punk band.
Totally.
It's punk bands, but I mean, Card Sheet probably even more than Card Sheet. But
yeah, because the card sheet is like, I mean, the construction that could be like a Bruce Springsteen song.
absolutely,
You know what I mean? Like it's
and,
so far away from a punk song.
and Train in Vain, just maybe even farther away from a punk song.
I can't picture. I'm like forgetting that there's piano in that.
Oh,
in my
there's a
mind.
shitload.
Yeah.
It's all throughout it.
I'm hearing the horns. I'm hearing the song in my head. The bass and
Yeah.
hearing the intro. And
Listen again, you'll hear the piano.
I'm sure that I will, but I'm like not hearing it in my brain. That's so weird. I can't think of it.
Well, I know you're a huge Clash fan, so that's why I thought for sure you would have picked that song. It was on my initial list to fit in there, but I'm like, it was too much of a gamble thinking there'd be crossover with you. on it.
Yeah, that's interesting though. It's weird that those didn't even pop into my mind though. But yeah, 'cause
Other big honorable mention for me is Ramones. Do you remember Rock and Roll Radio?
oh yeah,
Which has also a shitload of piano, but again, absolutely a punk band. But is that a punk song?
yeah.
That was a stretch for me.
All right. Well, since we're getting into honorable mentions here, let me go back to Vancouver, BC.
Ah,
DOA, Hardcore 81, the song Unknown.
Hmm.
It's got some ripping piano in there.
interesting.
And you're questioning if that's punk? That's
No, I'm not
definitely
questioning
punk.
if that's punk at all, but I'm
Just
just
didn't
it's
quite make the
honorable
top
mention.
five.
I just because like I like DOA. I don't love them. I more respect them for as early as they were and what they did, but they were never on heavy rotation in my house.
I love that record so much. I remember getting the CD for Christmas and taking it immediately upstairs to the room in my grandma's house I was staying at.
Yeah.
And putting it, on the fucking Discman with headphones and just listening to it like 3 times in a row.
Wow.
And getting so fucking excited.
That's a beautiful memory.
It was, yeah, it's like so accessible for, I don't know what I was, 15-year-old, like, oh, this is hardcore. It says hardcore on the label. And it's like,
well, that's
I
actually
love
where
this.
the term is coined. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was, yeah.
No, that's an amazing. I remember feeling that way about it. I think the Dead Kennedys singles record was the first thing I ever got that were like, this is a punk record. Like this is like something like a little scary, like accessible enough, but also like in the tone, the music and subject matter being like, this is like dangerous and scary, and feeling that same way.
And so much of the 70s stuff was kind of fed to me by really cool uncles.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
even my dad,
Yeah.
But hardcore was like, this is
For
my
you, yeah,
shit.
totally. My mom liked the fucking Ramones, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. My Also Ran was also a Canadian band because Teenage Head is one of my very, very favorite bands, and I love Ain't Got No Sense. Like that's a record that I go back to. I listen to that record monthly, weekly, even. And the last
hit
song
after hit.
Were they
Hit
from
after hit.
Toronto, or were they from?
Near Toronto,
Okay.
New London, or London, Ontario. So it's like a gritty. I said it's gross. A gross satellite
ass.
of Toronto, I guess. But yeah, that's a perfect record. It's a
Sweet.
perfect record. And the last song, "Kissing the Carpet," which is like kind of a funny song about drinking, but also like a song about like a for real song about like fucking your life up and like being a fuck up. And there is a harmonica in it, prominently. There's like a harmonica breakdown.
Train in Vain too.
Yeah.
Plenty of harmonica.
And also in the end, some piano comes in, but like it's so tangential, like it's like 15 seconds of piano towards the end. It's a little bit buried in the mix. Even like when I was listening to it on my phone, like not through a stereo, I almost couldn't hear the piano. And I was like, God, I love this song. I love this band, but it's not quite enough piano to put. It's like tacked on in there.
That's
Sure.
funny because I like picture a piano throughout that whole record, but
I do too.
I do that with that kind of power pop-ish punk. Like
You would think that there would be a band that would have it, but
Yeah, it's
no.
like the chorus effect that they play on the guitar almost has like a good piano effect to it.
But that would have been my song. I just fucking love that song. I
Oh,
also like
yeah.
it says, if you don't like it, baby, you can take a stroll, because I can tell that you can't rock and roll. That's a line there. There was a point in my life where I'm like, yeah.
that's like the most rock and roll thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, that's fucking A, man, yeah.
You got any other honorable mentions, Ian?
I think all my other picks were covered, namely Boys and Radio Birdman, which I initially had on lists, and we're like,
Cool.
someone else will get this.
Nice.
Yeah.
You got it in there. I have one. It's not super prevalent, but Stiv Bators' solo album "Disconnected." The song "Make Up Your Mind."
Oh, the best song on the record.
That's so,
Yeah, I mean that song is great. And it was written by the drummer David Quinton, who is from Toronto, who is in the Mods, which is really early, probably like 76, 78 or whatever, but they didn't do much. But anyways, Stiv Bators had been in LA recording Disconnected with these guys, and slowly as the tour went on over the course of a few months, each member of the Dead Boys dropped out, which eventually turned into all of his people that he was recording with in the studio playing for that last tour. And the song Make Up Your Mind, Stiv Bators, written by David Quinton, is more of a segue into David Quinton's solo album. I think it's called Bombs and Lullabies. It was also released on Bomp. It was released in 81, where Disconnected was released in 1980, where David Quinton has his own version of that song, which is terrific. But that's way more piano driven. There's more piano tracks off of the David Quinton. It's a perfect power pop album. And totally, if you guys aren't familiar with it,
The David Quinn version.
the David Quinton album, just his work is awesome.
I'd love to hear that because I love that song. I would say it's my second favorite song of Disconnected. A Million Miles Away is also like a perfect song about addiction and that's a perfect song.
No, I love that. Million Miles Away and second track.
Was it Evil Boy or no? That's the first
Evil
one.
Boy is the first track.
Ready Anytime.
Yeah.
That one unnerves me because he has the weird voice at the end, and it like makes me. Makes me feel a
ready
cringy
at the sperm
feeling.
of a moment.
Yeah. It's like gross, but also it's just something primally gross about it. Yeah.
I remember like very first conversation Andy and I had about Cool Heads was like, let's try to make every song as good as Make Up Your Mind. Let's have that be our goal.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
We've definitely failed, but
Honorable goal, yeah.
Sorry. Off of Disconnect, my favorite track is Bad Luck Charm, the second song.
Yeah. I mean, that record is hitting pretty hard.
It's great. Even his more solo stuff that was released after the fact, but it was like on LA. But like one of my favorite Steve Bader's tracks is I'm Not That Way, Baby, I'm Not That Way Anymore.
Oh yeah, it's so good. Was that stuff out of print for a long time or something? Because I remember I
Yeah.
heard like Lords of the New Church when I was like 13, and that's just good. But I mean, I don't think I heard that record till I was in my 20s, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, how have I never heard?
Because Bomp like went under and then didn't reissue for a while. My version of Disconnected is this weird fucking pixelated fucked up 10-inch version.
Yeah, there was like a weird boot for a while or whatever. But I guess it's pre-internet stuff because I loved the Dead Boys and I'd heard Lords of the New Church, and I didn't hear that record until like 12 years later, and I was like, how did this one get past me?
Especially because it comes directly after the Dead Boys. It's not like the only reason the Steve Bader solo stuff broke up is because he started doing the Wanderers. It had like Johnny Thunder. It had Dee Dee.
Oh, was that Gang War or no?
It's the album that it put out one album called Only Lovers Left Alive.
And it's like
not
awful.
It's not very good.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's definitely a super group of all those people at the time. But he wanted to try to juggle both, and the rest of the dudes are like, "Nah, this isn't working. It's one or the other. You're either going to be overseas or you're not." So,
well, it makes sense because it seems like the songs on Disconnected sound like later Dead Boys. Like the same feel. There wouldn't be out of place for the most part
for it to be their third record.
The third, the direction they're going in.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know about that. I mean,
maybe some of them.
It's a reach, but
We've Come for Your Children is still. It's not too much of a departure from Young Love
Sure, it
Snotty.
is.
I don't think so.
Yeah, but in terms of production value, and just
speed. Like Big City, it's still like a tough song, but it has like a little more swing to it. I don't know how do you. I'm not a musician.
I just feel like I really think that Steve Bader's solo stuff is way more.
It's
power
poppier.
pop. Yeah, it's way more trying to.
We've Come for Your Children would be like the weird, dark second record, and then they come back like poppier than ever and cleaner than ever. But
yeah.
Well, God, I'm so happy I got to talk about Steve Bader's. And David Quinton, a lot of piano work. He does piano on that track. He wrote the song. So just a little food for thought for those who know the Steve Bader's version but would like to know more. All right, you guys thinking we should do a top 5?
I'm thinking, yeah.
All right,
not?
well, I have one. What do you guys think? Like, there's only been one crossover this episode.
Seems pretty obvious to me.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about The Damned on this episode.
Okay, well,
I guess that'd be the one.
I guess we could talk a little bit more. Let's do The Damned. What do we think are the top 5 most listened to songs by The Damned?
Should I go?
You should.
Yeah, you got 5
Yeah, I got 5. On Spotify?
Correct.
I bet New Rose would be number 1 still. They seem to play, whenever I'm like listening to Apple Radio or Spotify at work, they seem to play a lot of that kind of early punk, so I bet that would be number 1.
First punk single.
Yeah, exactly. So New Rose, number 1. Smash It Up, number 2. Neat 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 for the same reason as New Rose. And then after that, I don't know, maybe Dozen Girls. And I don't know, I'll throw Don't Cry Wolf on there. I don't think that's right, but I ran out of steam.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think
Is
you're
that
off to-
5?
That's 5, yeah.
Okay.
What do you got?
I have a very similar top three. New Rose, number 1. Neat, 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 number 2. And then I'm going with Wait for the Blackout, followed by History of the World and Grimly Fiendish.
Grimly Fiendish.
Okay. Well, I'm with you, and hopefully we can all be winners on this. If we're at the casino and betting on the Damned was an option, I think we'd at least be making part of our money back. I got number 1, Neat, Neat, Neat. Number 2, New Rose. Number 3, Smash It Up. 4, throwing Melody Lee on there.
Wild.
Since we talked about it. And then number 4, Life Goes On.
Life Goes On, a solid pick.
Yeah. No way Melody Lee's on there. People don't want punks.
Melody Lee is definitely not
They don't
on
know
there.
Melody Lee.
Life Goes On. Spotify does love that track, and I love that track, but I don't think it's in the top 5.
All right, well, let me cue it up here. All right, let's see if the numbers...
I don't really fuck with Spotify, so I don't even know how this works. I was on.
Oh, damn. All right, let's see. I got the numbers here.
You know I'm
looking at the top 5. The numbers don't correspond, so I'll tell you what the corresponding numbers are. So, Neat, Neat, Neat with 20 million in number 1. Then New Rose at number 2 with 10,200,000 and change as number 2. Then Life Goes On.
Damn.
With 4 million. Alone Again Or.
Oh, yeah, the love cover.
I don't even know if I know that song.
It's great.
That's 3.5 mil. And Smash It Up, part 1 and 2, with 3.5 mil.
Well, which part did you guys have, 1 or 2?
Which one? I didn't put it. Am I disqualified?
I think we all. Yeah.
All right.
That surprises me, actually. I don't know why. I figured that Smash It Up would have been number 1 or 2 because I felt like that was like not the crossover, but like that was like kind of the safer, the one you might hear on the radio. Like back in the days, like when I would have never heard like Neat 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 on like rock radio in New Jersey ever.
But you heard Smash It Up on the radio?
Maybe, and it was in like movies and stuff, you know, like. Kind of like the way that like the only Ramones song you'd ever hear was like "I Want to Be Sedated." Like that used to be the song that like most
They had
people.
the music video for it.
They had a music video for it, but like that was the one you'd hear on like the radio and stuff. You know, you didn't hear.
Still do even.
And still do, but maybe you hear other stuff like that was like the one song a non-Ramones fan might have heard of. You know, I always thought of Smash It Up like that, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh, apparently, what people are listening to currently in 2021, it's
What you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, they only get. The Damned only have 100 or 500,000 listeners a month.
Huh.
So that's adding up. It's over the course of, I guess, as long as it's been on Spotify. But, yeah, very good.
Well, this was fun.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming.
No, thanks for inviting me. I thought this was a crappy topic that I'd come up with, but I guess old Matty pulled one out in the end after all,
You really done it.
Hey.
Anything else you want to talk about? Any food?
For the love of God, no. I want to get the fuck out of here. So I can eat some food, but I'll save that for another day.
What you
All
gonna
right.
eat?
Oh, I made a big pot roast last night. I got about 2.5 pound of pot roast waiting for me in my apartment. I'm going to go eat, I'm going to go eat some pot roast and a can of peas.
What are you going to do with a half a serving of pot roast?
Very funny. No, I'm going to eat a can of peas and a bag of potato chips and a hunk of pot roast, just like a sad, alone man, just alone in a room eating that perfect bachelor meal.
Oh, my God. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, I think there's a lot of people out there during this pandemic that are eating a similar meal. Maybe just the canned peas, though.
Yeah. We
At
can
least
only
you
hope.
got the pot roast.
At least I got the pot roast that I made from my very own hands.
Well, hell yeah. I got to thank you, man. This has been a lot of fun.
No,
and
thank you.
I know we got out there at times, but I had a blast doing this one. So thanks for the topic and thanks for coming out.
I as well. All right.
Cheers.
This has been a Top 5 production, produced by Kenton McDonald. Our theme song was by Ian Howe. Our logo artwork is from Andrew Colgan at Studio AYC. Edited by Kenton McDonald with editing assistance from Ian Howe. And a very big thank you to Andrew Bassett for today's outro music. And if you'd like to request a criteria, you can email us at podcast.topfive@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.